You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster Joe Benazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from Cboe. The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody, that music means we are back once again. It is Thursday of this first trading week of the final trading month of the year. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which all of you folks are having a good time these days. A lot of content waiting for you over there, which means you should be subscribed to the full network wherever you get your favorite podcast. Thanks to all of you out there who are sharing your listening stats with us. A lot of these platforms give you your end of year listening stats to your favorite podcasts, and a lot of you folks have been sending those in, showing us at the top of your playlist. We appreciate the love. We love you all back. You literally couldn't do it without all you listeners. Man, coming up this January be 19 years. Wild we've been doing it that long. Thanks to all you folks who've been along with us for any portion of that ride. And of course, if you want to keep that ride rolling, head on over to the pro, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. I do have it on good authority that one of my compatriots on this show today will be diving into the fray for Vol Deathmatch 2.0 against his lifelong nemesis, Mr. Scott Nations. Two men will enter the Vol cage. Only one can emerge victorious. Who will it be? We will find out over there on the pro. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. And a guy who wants no part of Vol death matches. He's a peace-loving fellow after all, unless it's on either the 80s trivia battlefield or the high school football battlefield. None other than Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show, sir.
Always happy to be here, and as we all know, I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Unless it's trivia, then you get pretty ornery, sir.
No, not at all. I think he got it all wrong.
Even when he gets the question right, he's still pretty ornery.
No.
You're an ornery trivia fellow, sir.
Not at all.
And then also joining us, the man who is feverishly behind the scenes, armoring up for his battle to come in Vol Deathmatch 2.0. None other than the Flow Master himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz from Cboe East. Mr. Flow Master, how go things? Did you get that pair of gladiator armor I sent over for you, sir? Did it fit?
It's a little bit snug in the in the middle. But otherwise, I'm good.
I told them
yes,
to capture your rippling abs perfectly. I hope they did.
That's the problem. Too many muscles. Yes, I am. I'm excited for some spirited jousting in terms of volatility. And happy to be here. It's a chilly day in New York, but actually I think it's even colder in Chicago. And the market's just kind of hanging out. It's actually pretty quiet. It's almost like the Thanksgiving week has just kind of persisted.
The turkey malaise is just kicking in. Well, you know what, listeners? We'll see if we can spice things up for you as we head on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, listeners, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading out there. And as the Flow Master alluded there at the top of the show, we are kind of hanging out in kind of what can charitably be called a mixed market. The Dow now slightly in the red, about 0.05, 0.06%. The S&P on my screen, at least right now, just ticked again. It was literally unched for a brief period there. So that kind of shows you how much action we got, even though we had a little bit more action before the show kicked off, obviously. We sold off a bit, then kind of tried to rally a bit, and then now have settled back to literally unched on the day. And then the NASDAQ pretty much unched as well, slightly in the green. So it's one of those days, listeners, where we're looking for a direction. If you're loading up on the 0-day premium, you might have a difficult day, or maybe hopefully you already got out. Either way, interesting stuff afoot. And, you know, if you're short a little vol here, you're not too mad. VIX Cash right before showtime was at a 16.25. It puts it down half a point. It has since, as we started talking, eroded even further, down to about a 16 handle now. Puts it down 0.75 of a point, listeners. So all that downside in vol kicking in, at least for now. How much juice is left to be squeezed out before the Fed next week? I guess we'll find out. Our old pal VVIX was hanging out at a 92 right before the show. That puts us literally unched, and it is still at a 92 right now. So hanging out unched so far on the week. But let's go out to the hallowed halls of Cboe East first. Mr. Flowmaster, first off, how was your turkey day? We haven't talked to you in a couple of weeks. And then B, what is catching your eye in a somewhat light Thursday, sir?
I had a very nice Thanksgiving weekend. We cooked turkey. I cooked some nice rolls and squash soup, and it was delicious. And it was a fun family weekend with a couple friends. In terms of catching my eyes, I did just run some stats for November. The average daily volume was down from Oct, but it still was the second busiest month on record, so averaging around 68.1 million contracts a day. October was actually almost 72.8. So we've slowed down a little bit, but you know we had October was just more volatile. You know, think back to April, right? You know, Liberation Week, that average daily volume back then was only 60 million contracts. So we continue to see just more activity, even though the market conditions have kind of quieted down. Now, it actually, like I said, it really has slowed down this week. I think today we're going to trade around 60 million contracts a day. In fact, I think to get back to anything over, you got to go back almost 9 days to get to the end of second part of November. We had some fireworks. We had a 90 million contract day, November 21st. But it's gotten quiet. It's also interesting, when you mention, VIX is flat, market's flat, really market is surprisingly flat. This is when I love to kind of dig into that VIX decomposition model. Now, I know that the intraday version is not available to the public yet, but I can look at it. And even though the VIX number itself is virtually unchanged today, I do see a little bit of sentiment to it. Basically, we're seeing kind of vol come down in a parallel shift. Okay, so that's basically kind of telling you it could be two things. There's a little bit of the holiday effect, as we're kind of getting into towards year end, and but also, just the fact that we're not moving. But what's interesting is within the spectrum of options that go into the VIX, the downside is a little tiny bit bid, and the upside is a little tiny bit kind of being sold. So this is, if you're trying to read some sentiment from this flat day, it's flat day with a little bit of maybe a very tiny caution flag going up. I mean, we are pretty much near all-time highs. Markets, S&P's up 16% year to date. Remember, we were up about 16%, then we sold off about 4% in the middle of the month in November, and we've really bounced all the way back up. So, Russell's up 14% year to date. The Nasdaq's up almost 22%. And I'll tell you that, we have the Mag 10 index is launching Monday. So that's going to be options and futures on the Cboe Mag 10, which is basically the Mag 7 stocks plus AMD, Broadcom, and Palantir. That index itself is up 46% year to date. So I think I mentioned this last time. Will do my best to be the very first trade in it, because I love to try to be the first trade in anything that we list, or almost anything anybody lists. But I'm excited for that. I mean, but otherwise, really, even in a sector basis, it's just quiet out there. There's, sometimes you have days where, S&P can be flat, but, maybe you have tech up and energy down or something like that. When I look at the sectors, there's not a lot going on. You have a couple positive, a couple slightly negative, but it's just quiet out there. But there's always something we can find that's worth talking about, and maybe worth engineering a trade for.
You love being the first in. You still rocking those nanos? You were the first in the nanos as well, sir.
I was. I've taken a little break on the nanos. I added up all the money, and it's not even minimum wage when it comes down to the amount of attention you have to give it. So I've stepped away from the nano.
We shall see. You can always get lured back in. Meanwhile, listeners, you're going to get lured to that Mag 10 index on Monday. Should be an interesting one as we head on out to the hinterlands of St. Charles. Mr. Uncle Mike, he's kind of in the hangover period. Fantasy football season, I should say. Not fantasy football. That's still going. High school football season is over. He doesn't know what to do with himself. So listeners, we'll put him to work on the markets. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what is catching your eye out there in the market, sir?
Well, like Henry was saying, we're kind of flat right now. And I think that we're on the sidelines. We're going to see what the Fed says next week and see what happens with that. In terms of some individual names with which we follow, just looking at Big Blue, IBM up 1.5% on the day, JP Morgan up 1.6% on the day. And that's pretty much the excitement that we have. The other, I should say that Meta is up over just under 4% on the day. But besides that, there's really not a lot of crazy movement in the markets right now. One thing that is interesting to take a look at, and it feels very 2010, 2011-esque, continues to be silver. Silver SLV is above the 50 mark again. It was up a lot more yesterday, but it is down 2.5% on the day. And so, I mean, silver's not going away. It's still mad at me for getting people out of it $10 ago, but we'll see what happens with it. I'm continuing to monitor it, and if we get a pullback, I might sell some puts on it. For now, I'm still on a silver vacation, if you will, and that's kind of what I'm seeing right now, besides the markets themselves. So we might get a Santa Claus rally coming up soon. We may not, but I think the big thing that everyone's watching right now is the Fed next week.
All right, Mr. Uncle Mike. Yeah, we were talking about your beloved silver on the futures rundown yesterday. It is, well, at least as of yesterday's show, it was the best performing asset of the year. It's kicked all the crypto assets to the curb. Obviously, they've had a troubling couple of weeks out there, which kind of took some of the glow off them. But it even is outpacing all the other shiny stuff, including platinum and palladium. So it's been quite the run. I think the number was 80+% as of yesterday on the show. So wild. It's
crazy.
Run.
It just looked at the market and said, we're going to kick your assets.
Yes, I heard. Oh, Uncle Mike's out. We'll show him.
That's right. They are kicking my assets. That's for sure.
Second, you said I'm out. It's like they wanted to spite you, sir, out there. Well, interesting stuff out there. Listen, are you still a silver bull? Are you riding the silver train? Are you a werewolf out there and you're quite excited that silver is much more expensive, so no one can afford to make silver bullets? Either way, you're partying out there. Let's see if these markets are partying, listeners. And the answer right now is, there's actually a surprising amount of volume to be found on what is a deceptively quiet day. Unless you're looking at the single names. We'll get there in a second. But let's kick things off in the indexes and in vol land. And VIX actually doing decent paper. Now, if we take the ADV out of the equation, which is back north of 1 million contracts, which I've said many times, that's a good indicator that these markets are something to sit up and pay attention to, and VIX is averaging over 1 million contracts a day, especially in December. Not normally the time of year for that. Normally this time of year, 350 on the tape by this part of the show, we'd say, wow, it's a banger. Strap in. Now it looks a little light, but nonetheless, the 350 is what we got on the tape in VIX land. If you're wondering your hot option out there in VIX land right now, the D16 puts going up 34,000 times. Looks like it could potentially be a D16-18 put spread maybe, but maybe on a ratio 23,000 by 34,000. Either way, those are your top two. Let's do a quick top five while we're here. 13,000 for number 3 of the D17 puts. So you got a nice little put strip going up here in VIX land today. Number 4 up to the upside, 13,000 of the March 22s. We've seen some interesting March percolating into the VIX top 5 of late, including, was it the March 85s yesterday for 38 cents? I think it was. Wild stuff. And number 5, 10, almost 11,000 of the Jan 20s. So we are literally all over the place. A day like today, you'd think, maybe SPY kind of struggling, 4.5, maybe 5 million. No, they're already at 6 million contracts. So north of halfway to their ADV, which is 10.4 million. So again, if you look under the hood a little bit today, it's kind of deceptively active out there, listeners. And let's keep on rolling out to our old pal, the S. The S also looking decently active, kind of back to the numbers it used to do this time of the show. We used to expect the S around 2.25 million, and it's pretty much right there, about 2.3 million in the SPX right now. So back to kind of the old average, which means it's a little light, but again, considering what we're seeing out there on the tape, that's actually an impressive amount of paper. Let's see if we're impressed with all the 0-day action. Are we 20 for 20 in the SPX when it comes to 0-day? The answer is most decidedly yes. Yeah, you can't find a single option in the top 20 today that is not expiring today. So once again, 0-day just taking the bit in the teeth and not letting go. The hot option out there in the SPX right now is 73,000 of these 6870s, listeners. Average price for these about 3 3/4. So I'm guessing if you bought these probably earlier in the session, not exactly loving them now, but you got some time. You got some time for these bad boys to come roaring back to life. Let's go out to IWM, small caps. Small caps have been a very interesting part of the market of late, putting up wild numbers of late. Are they doing it again today? The answer is they're decent, 1.56 million. So given that their ADV is only 1.95 million, I'd say actually that's more than decent. That's pretty dang explosive volume. Wasn't that long ago that the ADV for IWM was about 800,000 contracts. So they're already almost 2x that, and they're not even at their ADV now. So it's been a wild time out here in small caps. One of the interesting things, if you've been listening to our hot options report, is that small caps is one of the few that bucks the trend. They'll have non-0-day options at the top of the heap. A lot of that has been downside. Is that the case today? The answer today is nope. They're going to the 0-day upside. The hot option in IWM today, 92,000 of the 251 calls. If you're wondering, as of this moment in the show, we're hanging out 252 and about a half. So those are about $1.50 in the money. They went up for 46 cents, so probably looking good on those. Looking here, though, it is a mix. I'd say it's about 10 of the top 20 are expiring today, and the other half are all over the place, including end of December, 230 puts for an average price of about 76 cents. So once again, all over the place. Speaking of all over the place, the Qs have been all over the place of late. They've been a wild one to watch as well. And they are once again delivering on the volume front, 3.25 million contracts already. That ADV is a little bit shy of 5.8 million. So they are well on their way to hitting that number out there today. Let's run the same numbers for the Qs. Why not? Even Steven, shall we, listeners? And let's see, we've got 2, 4, 5 in our top 10 listeners are not expiring today. Those are expiring tomorrow. So if you go out a full 24 hours, you go out to the end of the week, everything in the Qs that is trading today will be expired. So again, it just shows you how front-loaded we are. And 15 of the top 20 expiring today, including right now your hot option in the Qs, 271,000 of the 623 calls hanging out 622.5 right now in the Qs, and those went up for about $1. So up to you whether you think that's a screaming buy or sold to you, or whether you'd rather not touch it with a 10-foot pull. All right, I tried to buy our top 10 a little bit more time, listeners, to put a little bit more flow on the tape. And the answer is it's still kind of a light day in your single name equity options today, listeners. A number 10 only cost you 285,000 contracts to break in today. I get just to our old pal AMD. You know, it's a kind of an interesting day when AMD is all the way at number 10. Usually it's 3, 4, 5, somewhere in that range. AMD selling off a little bit again today. 216 3/4, off about $0.75 out there today. Again, coming in at the number 10 spot, 285 on the tape. Number 9, just a frequent offender now. You can't really run the top 10 without this name popping up, which used to be a sign of a slow day. These days, it's kind of a sign of an average day. It's our old pal Alphabet Class A. Ever since Buffett waved his magic wand over this name, it's been hot. 316 3/4, off nearly $3, or about almost 1%. Shows Buffett has some good timing, or maybe he makes his own timing. Either way, looking pretty good, even if the stock is giving up a little bit today. Number 8, the former Widowmaker. Are they still the Widowmaker? Not really. We haven't really talked about them wiping out a lot of juice in a long time on the earnings season here. This is, of course, Netflix. They are in the headlines right now because they are one of the names that is vying for the bones of Warner Brothers. Who will get it? Who will emerge victorious? Netflix selling off on this potential bid. Right around 103 right now, off about exactly $1 out there today for the Widowmaker, putting up 309,000 contracts for the number 8 spot. Number 7, one of the Mag 10 now in the new Cboe index. It's Palantir. 315,000 contracts on the tape. 177.40 or so is where it's hanging out right now. Up about a little over $1 out there, a little over half, about 0.6% for a good old Palantir. Number 7. Number 6, it's my old stomping grounds of Intel. They had a nice little pop. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday, off the news that they were partnering potentially with Apple to handle some of their AI workload. Man, this stock's had quite the run. Ever since they went hat in hand to DC, their stock was almost exactly $20. Even with today's sell-off of about 2 2/3, they're still hanging out north of 41. So they've more than doubled since that little foray to DC. 41.14 off 2 2/3, or about exactly 6%. Intel number 6, 421 on the tape. Are you riding Intel? Are you out of Intel? Are you selling puts? Are you buying calls? Are you doing anything out here? Hit us up. Let us know. Number 5, the Amazonians, also taking it on the chin a little bit today. 228 1/3, off about exactly $4, or 1 3/4%. Good for the number 4 spot. We're all the way up at number 4, only 578 on the tape. So again, kind of a light day. Getting back to what the Flow Master was saying earlier, last month, a hot month, but only, I put in air quotes, only number 2 volume-wise out there. Listen, couldn't beat the white hot October, which was just insane. Number 4, the fruit company on our tape today, listeners. Apple actually managing to sell off today as well. We don't see that too often. Apple in the red. 280, pretty much exactly, off a little over $4, or about 1.5%. This stock has been making pretty much new all-time highs seemingly every day for the last couple of weeks, giving back some to the market gods today. Number 4, 578. Again, we're pretty light on our top 5 here. Number 3, the artist formerly known as Facebook, Meta, 838 on the tape. They're popping hard today, popping about 24 1/4, trading 663.87. Just popped again, 664 1/4 is where they're hanging out right now. Meta kind of going back to their playbook, which they used to kind of turn around back when they were threatening to break 100 in the wrong direction a few years ago, is laying off people and cutting spending. Even though their name is Meta, they're maybe dialing back on the metaverse a little bit. All in on the AI bubble. Either way, Meta popping hard today. Number 3, 838 on the tape. So I guess the metaverse, not what it was cracked up to be. Number 2, it's Tesla, 1.61 million. They've been on quite the tear of late. Kind of quiet today. They have had a range of nearly $10 though intraday. 445.39 to the downside, 454.63 to the upside. So intraday they had some action, hanging out up about $1.50 right now, trading 448.16 right now. So net kind of quiet for Tesla, even if they had a little bit more action. 1.61 million on the tape. They came roaring back to life this week. Listen to the hot options report for some of that action. And then number 1, the big dog, back in its throne. It's NVIDIA, 183.5, up about $3.90, or a little over 2, about 2.2%. Again, good for 1.81 million contracts out there in NVIDIA land today. Any surprises coming in the top 10 for you today, listeners, or was it all your usual suspects? I'm guessing you was probably surprised by a little bit of Netflix sneaking in there. And maybe, well, probably not Intel. They've been popping in there a little bit of late. And definitely not Alphabet and Tesla and Nvidia and all of our other usual suspects out there. It's been an interesting week on the earnings front. We had Uncle Mike's favorite shopping destinations, Dollar Tree and Dollar General and Five Below. They're all popping off this week. Interesting numbers out there. Surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, depending on Uncle Mike. Uncle Mike's been doing some more shopping out there. And they've been doing all right. I guess folks are swapping to some more bargain goods as the economy starts to falter a little bit. We had Dollar General popping off this morning. By the way, if you want all these updated reports, all available for you over there on the website for free because we like you folks. Dollar General popping off today. They went into their announcement 109.90. They were pricing in about 8%. They delivered 9%, and they were trading nearly 120 as of showtime. So again, the dollar segment looking pretty good. Kroger was before the bell today as well. 66.20 is where they were going into their announcement. They were pricing in 5.1%. They delivered 5.6%. To the downside, so the number not great for the grocery chain. Snowflake, this is kind of a weird one. They're hot, then they're not, then they're hot, then they're not again. They were yesterday after the bell. They went into their announcement 265 exactly. They're pricing in 9.5%. And guess what, listeners? They delivered, as of this report, exactly 9.5%, just in the wrong direction. They went to the downside. They're selling off out there. So I guess Snowflake, hot from a vol perspective, not hot from a directional perspective, if you're long it out there. Salesforce, this has been a weird one. They had that weird move last earnings where they popped hard. And then we talked about it on our hot options report that all the flow was fading the hell out of that pop. And that turned out to be the right trade. Buying the 300 puts when the stock was around 340, 350, expiring at the end of that week, and they paid off roughly $8. It was a wild time. Coming into their announcement yesterday after the bell, 238 3/4 is where they were trading, so they've sold off quite a bit since then. And looks like they're popping a bit. 241 is where they were trading. They were pricing in, though, about 7.5%. They delivered 0.9%. So not a great time for the vol buyers. Let's do one more. Let's do Uncle Mike's other favorite shopping destination. Let's do Five Below. They were yesterday after the bell. 163.15 is where they were trading going into their announcement. They're pricing in 9%. And as of this report earlier this morning, they had moved 0.3%. So premium sellers unite. That one and Salesforce, at least as of this report, were bangers for selling some vol. The rest, not looking so great, but you know what, listeners? Our season is still looking pretty interesting. 109% right now. Our long-term average is 102%. So rock'em sock'em robots on the earnings front. You can find all that for yourselves. Head over to the website as we head on into the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody. It is Thursday. The Flowmaster has shaken off his turkey coma. It is time to get down to business. We're going to kick it off in a name we were just talking about. This is our old pal Meta. Like I said, trading right now 664 3/4, up $25 just today. That's a good year for some stocks, just to move one day in Meta. On the year, you know the deal. It's been a pretty good year, even though not perhaps as good as you might expect. They were still north of the 600 handle at the start of the year, so they're up about $51, including today's wild move. Today's wild move pretty much doubles their gains for the year. Otherwise they were pretty much up about 5%. Now they're up about 10%, or actually about 8% for the year. So interesting stuff in Metaland. By the way, they sold off as low as, looks like about 479.80 back in April. And the low of this recent sell-off looks like they got down to about 594, somewhere in that ballpark. So 589, actually. So interesting stuff out here. But Mr. Flowmaster, what did you spot out here in everyone's favorite artist, formerly known as Facebook?
Yeah, so this is a little bit interesting. The anytime we see a move that's outsized, and kind of news-based or catalyst-based, I go and look at what the option flow looked like kind of heading into that. And if there was any sign of information leakage basically. And so in Meta today, if you look at the biggest open interest changes following yesterday's flow, it's actually led by 5,100 of the December 5th 675 calls. So those expire tomorrow. And, knowing that the stock's up $25, now it's not over the strike, but it's up, 4%. I went back and looked at those 675 calls to figure out, like, maybe somebody was doing something. And what's interesting is I did find that about 5,000 were traded yesterday, but they actually it was a customer selling them kind of in the 19-cent range in a bunch of basically sweeps. So those are going to be painful ones today because we see them trading $1.34. So that's a few $100,000 of paper loss. Now they might be able to just hang on. It is possible that that they actually it didn't trade as a spread, but it is possible because the second biggest open interest change is a decrease in the 680s. So it's possible they basically were short some 680s, covered those, so that open interest went down, and then they kind of reloaded and sold some 675. So it'll be kind of interesting. I mean, if the stock goes up another $10, this person, that's a lot. It is a lot of stock, right? You're talking about 500,000 shares of a $670 stock. So it's a lot of money. We people like to keep an eye on gamma, and this position is open. We can see it was a single seller, and so the market participants, and I'm not the only one that kind of can see this. The participants will be watching to see if that guy or girl kind of cries uncle and comes in to close the position.
Yeah, we don't see a lot of aggressive call sales out of big moves, let alone for 19 cents. not the sexiest of dues, but if they got some stock, they get called away tomorrow at a much higher level than they were, on Wednesday. Maybe they won't be the most angry people, Mr. Flowmaster. All right, let's keep on rolling out here to a name that we spotted on our Eye of Sauron as well. It's Gap. Good old Gap Inc. Haven't talked about this name in a little bit. Trading $26.38, off about half a buck today, or about 1 3/4% on the year. It's actually, with this last move, actually turned positive on the year, up about 40 cents, or about 1.5%. You would think, obviously, a name that relies heavily on importing clothes from other parts of the world would suffer from tariffs, and they did. They got beaten up to about $16.99 back in April. Then they they did immediately recover within a month. In late May, they were trading at their high for the year of about $29.29. And then they gave it most of it back in June, back to $21 again. They've been kind of vacillating around that low to mid 20s range. They did sell off again in October, back below 20 ever so briefly, $19.70. Since then, it's been mostly up. They had a nice run. They had a nice pop again just from November 20th to now. They were at $23 on November 20th, and they shot up to, looks like, about $27.50 on the 26th before settling back to where they are now, $26.38. What did our Eye of Sauron? I'll let the Flowmaster tell you, because he'll have a fun narrative to go along with it. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what did you spot out here in, at least right now, positive for the year Gap?
Well, yeah, we did notice the same thing, and this is it's a standout trade for sure. It's the trade was a couple trades actually, but the trade was a buyer of 15,000 of the regular December 19th, 28 calls. They paid 23 cents, and stock was a little bit lower than where we are now. Stock was 26.15. So, and if you look at the chart, it jumps kind of right then, basically as high as about 26.40. So this one, we're talking about a trade with impact of about 300,000 shares. Okay, which that's just taking the delta of the trade times the delta of the option times the price. I mean, it's not huge. Gap trades almost 10 million shares a day, but it is big. And considering the average daily call volume names only 17,000 contracts, it's a big opening, pretty aggressive trade. So they are up money on it now, just because the stock has bounced a little bit. I actually bought a little bit of stock around 26.40, just thinking that, on the day we're up to 42,000 contracts. Now, maybe there's some holiday numbers that might come out kind of before these expire. And they don't have earnings or anything, but it's just a kind of a simple case of a very heavy call volume. Right now, basically calls outnumber puts almost 10 to 1, 50,000 calls and 4,500 puts. So I think this one's kind of worth watching. I mean, it is, it's not a massive premium trade, but it does seem to be pretty big. And, like I said, on the day, it looks to me like maybe they've kind of sized up to somewhere between like 30 and 40,000 contracts.
All right. And we're sizing up. We're perhaps down to our next name. This is a newcomer to our Odd Block listeners. If you've been hanging out in our Pro, though, it might sound familiar. This is United States Antimony Corp. Ticker symbol UAMY, UAMY, trading $5.84, having a hell of a day today, up 51 cents or nearly 10%. So a good year for them in one day. And on the year, it's been an interesting year. They're up nearly $5, $4.77. So yeah, they're up 445%. When we actually talked about them last, they were popping hard. They got up to nearly $20, 19 3/4. So it's been quite the year for United States Antimony Corp. I'll let you look up what they do on your own time, listeners. But if this name sounds familiar, you're probably hanging out in our Pro, listeners. Yet another reason you should be hanging out in the Pro, because we talked about these guys back on October 3rd. We talked about somebody coming in. It was right around the time of that big move, listeners. So the stock was still, let's see, the stock at the time was $8.11. It was right before that big run up to nearly $20. And we talked about somebody coming in, scooping the 15s. They were the May 15s, so they were going out quite a ways. It seemed like quite the optimistic play. I mean, the stock was $8. You needed nearly a 2x run for these bad boys to make money. They lifted the offer for $1.50, 3,500 times. They ended up doing about double that amount of flow on the day, total of 7,000. So we were looking at this one kind of wide-eyed, saying, what is going on in this name? And then sure enough, a few sessions later, they soared to the moon. So we have to go back and dig and see if they closed this May flow. But that's not what we're talking about today, listeners. The Flowmaster has UAMY on his radar today as well. Mr. Flowmaster, what did you spot in your new favorite, United States Antimony Corp?
Yeah, I did have to go to, I went to Claude to ask what the heck zeolites are, because that's one of the things that UAMY mines, I guess. It seems to be maybe a battery adjacent type of business, because some of their stuff is used in semiconductors and batteries. So this does kind of get a special mention just because of exactly what you're saying, which is it's got a pretty big move on, and heavy call volume pretty recently. And maybe somebody, now this is not at all as big as that flow we saw back then, but it still is, it is pretty decent. I mean, on the day we got 14,000 calls and 1,900 puts, and the chunky purchases are the Jan 7.5 calls bought for 60 cents in a couple of sweeps, and also the December 6 calls. Even a few of the tomorrow 6 strike calls were bought for 20 cents. So it doesn't look like it's super hard to borrow or anything. Let's see. I mean, it's 40 basis points to borrow, so it doesn't look like much of a hard to borrow situation. But it is, today's flow has basically goosed the volatility, especially to the upside. So just looks like a pretty aggressive call buy. I mean, we're looking at that skew, right? We talk about the put call skew. It's negative 25 points. So the call vol at the 25 delta range is 25 points higher than the put. Let me just see if that's a record. It's not. It's been a little bit steeper in the past. It does tend to trade as like commodity name, basically, where the skew is kinked to the upside. But we saw a pretty crazy move in a short squeezy name yesterday in Capricorn, CAPR. That stock, it's a drug stock, and something was approved, or there was not approved, but there was some positive trial information. But that thing went from $6 to $40 before it kind of came back a little bit. It's still at 25, and that is a very hard to borrow name. So just looks like maybe somebody kind of setting up for some upside. And when we know that there's kind of people love these stocks that are single digits, and so $6, that community likes to keep they feel like very comfortable with that price level. So I didn't buy any of this one, but I'll certainly keep it on the radar. And if it gets really, really hot, it'll be pretty interesting, because we'll be able to look at it and say, yeah, somebody definitely got in via options to start.
I just fired up the Flowmaster machine while you were talking to check on those May 15s. Looks like they're still open. Well, there's been flow on that strike since, but the OI is almost literally unchanged since October. So there's been flow, but there's still about almost 7,000 open on that strike. So looks like they're still open, which is kind of interesting because they had multiple opportunities to get out, Mr. Flowmaster. It looks like some printed a week later for a little over double the price, though. So it is possible someone sold some and then someone else piled in. Either way, interesting stuff. We'll keep an eye on everyone's favorite, including the Flowmaster's new favorite, UAMI. Let's get out. Let's do one more. Let's do a bonus because we were off last week, listeners, because we like you folks. Let's go out to another name we talked about not that long ago. This is Intuitive Machines, Inc., ticker symbol Lunar, because their stocks go into the moon, right? And because, of course, they also do space exploration. Ticker symbol LUNR, trading $11.50, up about $1.30 or 12 2/3% today. So again, a good year in a day, listeners. On the year, they're still actually, even with today's move, they're still off about $1.30 or about 10.5%. So today's move pretty much cuts that in half. Let's see, a year ago, they were $12.82. They got as high as nearly $25 in January of last year. Then they fell off a cliff, not in April, but in March. They got down to their low for the year of $6.14 on March 10th. Then they've been kind of clawing their way back a few times ever since, hit nearly $13 in July, sold off again $8.50 in September, rallied again October, nearly $14 again, then selling off again. They were just down at $8 pretty much exactly just a few weeks ago, and now on the run again, including a nice pop today. Mr. Flowmaster, what'd you spot in Lunar? This is the name that has upside calls written all over it, sir.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, and I don't know if there's anything kind of current on it, but I do think I heard some sort of story this morning on NPR. They were talking about building buildings on the moon and how they could do that from the moon soil, dust, whatever it's called. There's a name for it. So the flow that caught my eye on this one, a couple of trades happened right around 11 a.m. The biggest one is a buyer of 1,400 of the tomorrow 11.5 strike calls. Now they paid 10 cents for that, and the stock was 11.02, and it was in a pretty aggressive sweep. Those are trading at a quarter now, so they've doubled their money with the stock up 50 cents to basically where we are now. And I looked at what the kind of volatility is doing in here. It's up 44 points. So you're looking at vol of kind of around 150-ish when it was basically around 110. It is a high vol name. That's for sure. The realized vol in this thing is kind of in the 100% range. But today's just one of those days where you get the vol jump, you get the stock jump. You get that, the skew gets even more inverted to the upside. And, again, it's a kind of a low dollar price stock. So it can draw a lot of attention. Another one to watch. I mean, we talk about kind of the meme names and when kind of we see some of this kind of aggressive speculative action via options. And there's kind of market conditions where it's really not the focus, right? Just go back a few weeks, and when we were selling off, over 100 handles in the futures, you don't see a lot of it then. But you do see it kind of come right back when you get into, I think, what people would consider as relatively calm or safe market conditions. Now, I don't know if we're going to stay that way, but I mean, what we're looking at right now with, VIX at under 16 currently, tells you we're not going to be seeing moves that are very big. At least the market's not anticipating that.
But we are anticipating a little bit of your mail, so let's get there now. A little bit of the Thursday mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block, the portion of the show where we break down your questions, your comments. We also shine a spotlight back on you. Our producers did just that as we were running on here with the show. They asked you folks, are you down for a little bit of that VIX put action we were talking about at the top of the show? Right now, the hot option in VIX land are the D16 puts expiring on the 17th, going up 34,000 times for 23 cents. Pretty straightforward this time. Are you going to buy them or sold to you? And right now, 71.4% of you want to buy those puts, 28.6% saying sold to you. So interesting stuff out there. Speaking of interesting stuff, our actual question of the week is quite interesting. It's, dare I say it, the hottest segment of the markets, derivatives world. Pick your poison right now. It's the binary/prediction realm. I mean, don't call them binaries anymore. It's kind of passé. Sounds much cooler and fancier to say prediction. CNN wouldn't announce they were partnering with a binary options exchange, but they will announce they are partnering with a prediction market like they did yesterday. So we've got these prediction markets lighting it up. We thought we'd ask you this week. A lot of people are spending a lot of money trying to determine where a trade ends and a bet begins, and vice versa, which raises the question: how should we trade these things? Should we just list binaries on everything, take the Kalshi approach, everything is fair game, who wore it best, and a CPI, or should we keep it to things that are markets related, so WTI, CPI, SPX, that kind of stuff? Or you're just getting a little skittish about the whole thing. This makes me nervous. Uncle Mike, we will start with you, sir, as our reigning, defending binary expert. What are your thoughts on this whole growth of the space? Do you think we should list binaries on everything, trading-related products only, or does all this make you nervous? And then B, what do you think our audience is up to?
I think it should be listed on everything, but at a very, very slow release. So, for example, because of all of the things that are happening in sports betting right now, and I think it just all came about too quickly, when people are betting on balls and strikes, it gives more of a tendency for corruption, because a pitcher who might think, well, it's just one pitch, I'll throw one in the dirt just for one pitch, it's not going to affect him, and then he gets paid 10 grand just for screwing up one pitch or whatever the bad guys paid him to do it. I think that we need to just go out very slowly with it, because I like the idea of open markets on everything, but we just need to go very slow with it to try and make sure that it doesn't become corrupt like a lot of things have done in the sports betting realm.
Yeah, kind of wild that people getting paid tens of millions of dollars would throw it all away for 10 grand, throw a pitch in the dirt. You'd think they'd have an economic incentive not to do that, but c'est la vie, apparently not. So you fall in the everything category, which I think our audience is there as well?
I do. All
right, and Mr. Flowmaster, same question for you. What are your thoughts? Where should that line of demarcation be drawn, if anywhere? And then B, which way do you think our audience is going?
Well, we are, Cboe is really looking at this prediction market as it evolves, and
I think everyone is. I think I technically launched one while we were talking, sir. Everyone's got a
there you
game.
Go. I'm sure you could use ChatGPT to help you write the code and actually predict what event contracts would do the best. I'm not a huge fan of just letting it kind of explode without some, framework, and because I don't know. I mean, I think we saw it when after that Luigi shot the CEO of a healthcare company. Like you could bet on whether he was going to be extradited, and I just feel like I don't know. I get a bad feeling about it. So I do get that sports and financials and things like CPI. It is all kind of, I guess, letting people exercise their free will and kind of do what they want with their capital. And I am a free market person, but I also think that, we need a little bit of protection, because otherwise I think some people can just get carried away and kind of carried out in terms of behavior. So I would say that, it makes me nervous. That's my choice. But I'll bet our listeners are gung-ho binaries on everything.
Interesting. Well, Mr. Flowmaster, our audience is kind of more in line with you, actually, which is kind of interesting. We speak to the bleeding edge of the trading crowd, and they're a little bit reticent on this, it seems like. They want trading products only is winning right now, 45.5%. 36.4% are in your camp, Mr. Flowmaster. They say this makes me nervous. And only 18.2% are in the Uncle Mike camp. Let them fly. Uncle Mike, the reigning defending libertarian here, wants everything listed. 18.2% for the Uncle Mike crowd. Get in there. That's going to run till the end of the week. Get in there at options and make your voice heard.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on for the rest of the week into the weekend, certainly till our next Option Block show on Monday. And as of the end of the show here, we pivoted ever so slightly into the green in the markets. The Dow 0.01 just ticked point, unched again. The S&P up about 0.1%. NASDAQ up about 0.1%. VIX cash dipping ever so slightly below the 16 handle, 1593. So interesting stuff. Will we stay here or will we shoot in one direction or the other in a few minutes? It's one of those markets, listeners. But let's go out to Uncle Mike, the guy who, I think, to quote him, says, list binaries on all things near and far. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir. What are you keeping an eye on until our next show and your next trivia battle on Monday?
Just continuing to watch the paint dry, kind of, with the markets at this stage compared to what we've been used to this year. Not a lot. I think it's more the Fed is the big thing next week. So continuing to watch that and wishing that we could place some bets on the trivia contest between Andrew and myself.
Oh, you're feeling a little spicy. You liking your chances now.
Well, what I might do, if I had the ability to do that, the corrupt side of me, since I'm dealing with the Chicago politics that you and Andrew are all about, maybe I could just take a dive and bet on Andrew. That might be the way to go.
I'm sure if you reach out, there's enough listeners, someone could list. Go ahead, list one. Get out there. You should create the market, and then you could fade the heck out of yourself. And Mr.
Interesting.
You could throw your proverbial first pitch in the dirt. Mr. Uncle Mike. Mr. Flowmaster, same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on till your next appearance next Thursday?
Oh, it's all Mag 10 all the time. I'm going to be talking about Mag 10. I'm going to be watching it. I'll post some data on the component option activity for the last year or so. We actually have an internal bet on where the implied volatility for this index is going to open up, because it is an interesting exercise, right? You know what the component vols are, but you have to kind of contemplate the correlation when you take these vols that are, maybe 50 or so on each of the component names. When you put them on an index, obviously you get diversification and canceling out. And so I believe the over-under was, the market was somewhere between 23 to 30 or 40, 30 and a half, 35-ish implied vol. And then, yes, the Fed, and just kind of, seeing where we're going. We seem to be in a very calm moment, and I think everybody needs to keep that in mind. This is maybe the rest of the year is just going to be kind of like a snooze fest. But I don't know. I wouldn't count on it.
Just takes one tweet, sir, to upend the apple carts. But that music means we have come to the end of this journey through the world of options. But don't worry, if you want more in your life, I will be coming back in a little bit with all things TWIFO. Who will join me on TWIFO? Well, you got to tune in to find out. If you're hanging out in the pro, then just keep hanging out. We'll pump some fun stuff in there. Be back in a little bit to kick off that show. Oh, I can't bury the lead anymore. I am going to be joined by our good buddy, The one, the only Dan the Man Grams. I know you folks love it in the pro when he joins us. So stay tuned for that one. Should be a fun one. You don't want to miss it when he holds court on just about every futures product under the sun. How much can we squeeze in an hour? I guess you got to tune in to find out. And then, of course, we wrap up the day with the Hot Options Report. If you like this show, you're going to love the Hot Options Report. And then, of course, back tomorrow with Dr. Vix and other special guests to talk some vol. And then, of course, for our pro folks, we're back with some options oddities, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. To learn more, then we wrap up the week with, of course, one last Hot Options Report. And Mr. Flowmaster, you folks have a big week coming up next week in Cboe land. A hot new product launching. If folks want to check it all out, where should they go? What should they do?
You can go to Cboe.com and just in the search bar look for MAG10 or the ticker is MGTN. And you can always come to Cboe.com/RMA to look at our risk and market analytics offerings. That's our data sets and our tools like Trade Alert, Live Vol, Silex, and FT options. So just head over to Cboe.com. We got lots of good stuff there.
There you go, Cboe.com. You know where to find it. Easy to spell, CBOE.com, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires, including on those new Mag 10 options. Should be fun. And Mr. Uncle Mike, are you listing any new products that I'm not aware of? And B, where should folks go if they want to learn more about all things Uncle Mike?
As much as I'd love to list binaries on the Chicago Catholic League football conference, I am not. Go to stcharleswealth.com if you would like to set up an appointment with good old Uncle Mike. We will talk high school football. We'll talk investing. Always love hearing from any of our listeners. stcharleswealth.com. Look me up.
stcharleswealth.com, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. That's going to do it for us. Back again with Dan the Man Gramza in a little bit. If you're listening on demand, just hit next. Yet another reason why you should be subscribed to the full network. We should be at the top of your Spotify and Apple Podcast playlist list. So much content coming at you. Make sure you're listening on your favorite platform. Then, of course, back again tomorrow with all the fun, and then we're back again on Monday. Trivia battle in hand. Another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.